What's cracking, guys? Omar Isaf here, back with another video. You need to sit down for this one. It's going to be a longer video, but it's going to be worth your time. This is a video podcast featuring Eric Helms, Dr. Eric Helms. If you care about nutrition, programming, strength, hypertrophy, the meaning of life, this podcast is for you. Eric was recently here in Toronto for an upcoming Kaizen program that will be launching not this Friday, next Friday, so that's I think August 9th or 10th. It's all about nutrition. It's like having your own coach without paying the price when it comes to nutrition. If you want to bulk, if you want to lean down, if you want to get really lean and you don't quite know what to do, because it's not simply calories in versus calories out. If you want to maintain your muscle mass, your strength levels, and then optimize your body composition, there's a lot of nuance. This is the most advanced. It's not only a macro calculator, it's a complete guide step by step for the individual. And so we're extremely happy to be working with Eric Helms. That's why he was up in Toronto. This is going to be huge. I'll announce that next week. Here, this is a podcast from my podcast, Mama's Boys Podcast, which is hosted by myself and Silent Mike every Tuesday and Friday. So this is a special edition where I interviewed Eric in person. You'll learn a lot when it comes to nutrition and training, but as well, and maybe leave a comment in the comment section below. I try to change the angle a little bit where I think a lot of you, myself included, I started out as a trainer. I trained people for a long period of time. If you're interested in knowing how to grow a business when it comes to being a trainer or these choices that are made when you want to become more evidence-based, so the mindset, what to look for, really trying to give good information. So not only be successful, but be good at what you do. This podcast is going to have a lot of insight. Anyways, I'm going to let the podcast play out. Before I do, if you like this type of content, if you like all these collabs, make sure to like the damn video and also check out all our podcasts, which are uploaded every Tuesday and Friday on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and soon we're going to resurrect the YouTube channel. Lastly, make sure to follow Dr. Eric Helms on Instagram. I'll have that linked in the description. Without further ado, enjoy this episode of the Mama's Boys Podcast. They'll be talking and they're having a deep conversation and then they segue into it. So it looks like you're already in the middle of a really good conversation.
Yep.
But a lot of the times that's manufactured.
Absolutely. I think we should make it a really obvious manufacture.
Yeah, so it's like we were talking about that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, government housing. So anyway, here we are.
Oh, wow. Hey, so happy to see you here. Joined by the legendary Eric Helms. Welcome to the world's best, worst podcast, the Mama's Boys Podcast, the podcast you didn't know that you needed. This is now a solo podcast. My bro, my better half, my second half, the one and only Silencio Michael could not join us here in Toronto, but we are joined by, when I say a special guest, I don't hype shit up. I just tell what's real. We're joined by Dr. Eric Helms, PhD. For those that don't know who Eric Helms is, he is an OG in the field of evidence-based fitness. He has been around for at least 14 years, training, lifting, coaching. He helped form 3DMJ, which has been instrumental for the natural bodybuilding movement. It was also instrumental for helping to promote flexible dieting, things like strength being important for natural athletes. Essentially, all the normal things you see people do today, all the bros, where they follow a solid program, when they track their macros, a lot of that shit can be attributed to the one and only Eric Helms, who now joins me.
Well, I will graciously take some of that, but not all of it. I'll say thank you, but I got to say I've been inspired myself. And, 3DMJ is not a one-man show.
That's true. It's a
four-man, one woman, and then we've also got another couple women behind the scenes and another man.
Okay.
It's a big operation.
It's a community.
It's a community,
okay.
I would say.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a natural movement.
It's not, it's more than a movement. You know what I'd call it?
What would you call it?
A lifestyle.
I would say there's a revolution.
Oh, an aesthetic revolution?
Definitely not.
No, definitely not. Yeah, definitely not. I just want to say that I am super happy to have you on this podcast because I've filmed a lot of content with a lot of individuals throughout my career, being a YouTuber, a influencer, a fat professional toner, and you have the gift for gab.
Well, if you know that someone has the gift for gab, then I won't argue with you because you're one who is also
full of shit.
Gab gifted.
Oh, gab gifted.
I was going to, which means the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. It's happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's happy to be here. That's how good my gift of gab is for me to have. It's very good.
Very
I speak English with flow and nice talk.
And before we go on, this is the perfect segue to thank our sponsor, the one, the only Kaizen Training. Whether your goal is to build muscle, lose fat, or get stronger, we got you covered. Kaizen Training, that's Kizen training.com, effective, affordable training programs. And that's kind of weird because we brought on, and that is the goal, just to wank ourselves off a little bit here. The goal with Kaizen was to bring the best of the best. And so when it came to powerlifting, we brought on the godfather of Russian powerlifting that really was the OG of a lot of things that now people once again take for granted, Poroshenko. When it came to nutrition, I thought to myself, I got to get the guy that looks really good, that coached a lot of people, that kind of started a movement and has been around in the industry for a long period of time and is universally respected. Maybe that makes sense. Let's get Eric Helms on.
Oh, I was really nervous. I thought you were going to say Lane Norton for a second.
Oh, no. So I misheard you. Did you say Alan Aragon? Because, I mean, he's amazing. I would love to work with Alan.
Either that or Mike Israetel.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. There was probably a list of about 5 people.
They all said no.
Yeah. And I am so grateful. So Alan, Mike Israetel, James Krieger, Lane Norton. Thank you guys for turning this down. I just appreciate that.
Yeah, there was a few others that we consulted, but you thought it was 4 or 5. There's a long list.
4 or 5 that laughed at me and sent me pictures of that message.
Yeah, and I actually
they said, "Lol, try Eric. He says yes to everything."
Yeah. Well, what's that? I actually asked your bro Alberto, and he said, "Dog, I'm busy."
Yeah, he's like, but
who's not busy?
You know, this guy who's nearly as popular as I am, but not quite as good, but still will get the job done.
But he has great dance moves, and that's what I discovered. I think Mike didn't want to be on this podcast today, and I'm just going to say it. I mean, I threw up the clip on Instagram, but boy, you got moves.
You know, I just do what the rhythm tells me. You know, and sometimes I think, the rhythm's going to get you.
Yeah,
it's going to get you.
Rhythm of the night, you could say
that also. Yeah. So I mean, I just move the way that my body tells me to move, and I respond to the rhythm, and the rhythm responds to me.
But Eric, you can actually dance, and I would just say that a lot of people can't dance. Was this something innate, natural to you? Was this part of you growing up as you've labeled yourself amongst hippies? Like, is this just something where there's something in the water that there's the perfect, combination of things that created you and made you you? Or maybe as Prince said in his seminal 1999 the album labeled 1999 from 1983, something in the water does not compute. Is that you?
If Prince said it, it's me. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. But no, really, I just, I got big into hip hop in high school.
Yeah.
So I think, it was either my sophomore or my junior year. I hooked up with some of the guys who were already breakdancing in my high school, and I was just kind of the wannabe for a while until I did okay. And they're like, all right, we'll let this white dude do it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's like, unlike the actual breakdancing where you have to, have strength and flexibility and hold your body up, you can maintain popping.
Yeah.
And like liquid and stuff like that over time. So yeah, I've been on and off having it as my party trick as a throwback to when I respected myself in high school. Like most guys, they're like, hey, and back in high school, I used to be able to throw a football a quarter mile. I'm like, hey, back in high school, I was in I got the pop lock at all the dances, and remember when I was a senior and we had a rally, I got to do a demonstration.
And they loved it.
Yeah, I peaked at 17, so it's hard.
I peaked when I was 8 because my mom used to dress me and the haircut and everything, and I looked like a little Arnold Schwarzenegger with the haircut from Terminator 2. And I had so much swag, and then when she removed that, and she's like, all right, you're old enough to dress yourself, it all went downhill. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's better than peaking at 17, because at least at 8, you had that innocent style. At 17, I was like cool, but I was also just a, unformed person.
Yeah.
So now I'm just a shell of an unformed person.
Yeah, a shell of your former self that was an unformed person. So
I'm happy to be on, though.
Hey,
it's really great to be here today, though.
I'm so happy to have you on. It's interesting you said that. I feel that every kid, maybe in particular, I want to say males because you want to show off, around high school, you want to choose something that makes you a little different, or you have that, you said party trick. Like I took up music. You took up actually not only some breakdancing, some pop and locking, some hip hop. Like actually, for those that don't know, and they don't know because they don't know.
Why would they know?
You did a little hip hop. Like you did a little MCing. Is that the correct? Am I the cool kids? Am I doing it right?
I just want to say that Mike would be proud of you. You're like, you're holding it down.
I'm trying my
best. Even though this is not your thing.
My palms are sweaty right now. I'm like trying to use all the... So
Mom's spaghetti?
pop, lock it, bombing on my sweater
already. Yeah, no, yeah. So I noticed that like breakdancing music's not the same thing as like lyrical hip hop. That's kind of more underground backpacker style. That's what I started getting into. But I was noticing I was really listening to the lyrics of the stuff we're dancing to when it was something that kind of crossed that boundary. And I just got really interested in good rap. Where I think they see the quality of the lyrics as a skill. And that's something that I got really into for a long time, man. It was basically what I did from 16, 17 until I was maybe 20, 21, 22.
Yeah. So like you say, good rappers. So I guess you give some examples, but I think you said before Soulja Boy was one of the important ones.
I mean, he's probably the king of underground hip hop, he's right up there.
He's right up there.
Right up there with, like Silk the Shocker.
Right.
God, who are some other classic lyricists that I can think of?
You tell me,
Lil Jon, some of the...
What?
Yeah, exactly. But that's such an important question.
Yeah.
Asking yourself, what?
What?
It's because why is played out.
Right.
And how is just it's derivative.
Right.
It tells you how to get somewhere, but asking what is that? It truly is a question about how do you perceive what's in front of you. A machine can't discern objects.
No.
We have to use machine learning and AIs and algorithms just to discern, the difference in colors and objects, but a human can tell what something is intuitively. And I think that existential question that Little John has asked is one that we'll never answer.
He will be, down in history as one of our great contemporary philosophers. There's Nietzsche, there was Kierkegaard, there was a lot of people that asked some very important questions. We could say some of the Stoic philosophers from the Greek times, Seneca, just a lot of people thinking about a lot of things. But John just wanted to know, Little John, sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect him.
Correct.
Wanted to know what, right? Like, I think, therefore I am Rene Descartes. That's cool, but like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are on the top of my list. Is essentially what I'm getting at.
So you go deep. So people think like, oh, like you did a little bit of hip hop. That's cute. Well, you like Eminem, not knocking Eminem.
Eminem's good.
But name some people just so you get the respect of like the hip hop group.
To be honest, like Eminem was basically one of the few backpack rappers who just completely crossed over, and you got a little bit of a taste of what that world's like. It's funny how he's like, oh, it's a big time white rapper, but in like the underground hip hop scene, it's super mixed in terms of cultural. Yeah. And I can always tell whether someone's into hip hop or not when it's like I tell them I used to rap, and they go, oh, you like Eminem? And I was like, I actually was rapping before I knew he was a thing.
Yeah.
And if they focus on the fact that I'm white, that kind of tells you they're probably not into hip hop.
Sure.
But anyway, so like some people who I came up listening to, like Nas is a great example of someone who represents everything about hip hop culture, who's like in the mainstream. But some guys and gals who I used to really listen to, like Idea, who's someone who most people hasn't even heard of. But he unfortunately died, I think in 2011. But he was an amazing lyricist. And he had a line in one of his songs that was like, I'm probably your favorite MC's favorite MC. So he's like, yeah, you don't know me, but you know who does know me? The guy you think is good.
Yeah.
That's an example. But I like a broad range of stuff. I really haven't followed it since like 2005 or 6. So I'm kind of on that like mid-range, pretentious golden era underground hip hop tip.
Yeah.
So
it used to be so much better.
Yeah, like you talk to them like the kids these days, man, they don't know anything.
They mumble rap. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, like although there's some awesome people doing stuff like right now. I think Kendrick Lamar is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of had that position too when it comes to rock music, like rock, funk, jazz. We actually got down with the exact same stuff when it comes to funk. I saw your funk playlist and I was like, God damn, I see some Parliament Funkadelic. I see some Earth, Wind, Fire. I see some Prince. You put Gap Band.
Oh yeah, Gap Band. Gap Band is probably my favorite funk band.
Wow.
Because they're just so consistent and they have such a specific sound.
Yeah.
And they're so good to dance to. So yeah, it's funny. Like hip hop has a lot of different expressions of the same thing, like like graph artists, DJs, MCs all get down together, but they are often like they don't all listen to the same music. Like DJs will be way into some guys who are all about like scratching and doing all that thing, and then graph artists are kind of a little bit of everything, and then MCs listen to stuff that sometimes the beat's not that good, and they're just like whatever, who can spit,
Yeah.
But so I got the opportunity to listen to more of the breakdancing b-boy culture stuff. So I have a huge appreciation for funk. So yeah.
You go funk, you go hip hop. the many things that people don't know about Eric Helms, multifaceted. And that's why I want people to understand who you are before we get into lifting, because a lot of lifters, I find they are, and I don't want to say they're one-dimensional, how they portray themselves. I'm all about lifting. I'm about the grind. I live for the grind. I'll die for the grind. I'm like, hey, shit, fuck, whatever, man. If you, that's you, that's you.
Yeah.
I like a lot of things, right? There's no reason why you can't do a lot of things. You also told me, and this is something I come back to, and I put forth this theory, Eric.
I like theories.
That if Eddie Van Halen, who is one of the greatest guitarists of all time, in my personal opinion, of the electric guitar in particular. Yeah, he very underground. So you said Idea was like he's like the equivalent for rock.
Got it. Cool.
But if he was around in the last 20 years, grew up in our time, I think he would have been waylaid maybe by video games. And instead of becoming amazing at guitar, where him growing up in the 50s and 60s, there's some television, but television didn't have 30 channels like it does now. There's no video games. There's not as many distractions, quote unquote. And so he spent thousands of hours, some would say 10,000 plus hours.
Maybe enough to be an expert.
Yeah, at least 9,999 hours.
Plus or minus, mainly plus 1 hour.
Yeah, plus 1 hour.
Yeah.
And so he became a legendary guitarist. But if he grew up today, maybe he would have picked up World of Warcraft instead, right? And that instant kind of a dopamine rush effect of playing those video games, again, that satisfaction. And you made a wise choice going to video games. This topic now, we both played video games growing up. We spoke about the Genesis and so forth. I stopped playing because I wanted to pursue a bunch of different things. Video games when I was 16, because I was playing probably a week, like 10 to 15 hours. And I'm like, damn, I could be doing a lot of other things. I didn't pick them back up till I was in my early 20s. You played a lot of video games going up, and then what happened?
Yeah, I had to kind of swear them off for a bit, and I've only come back to them like since 2016.
Yeah,
but it's different. So I totally agree with you. Like, now this was back when there wasn't really like a big gamer culture. Like, there's legitimate pathways to income as a gamer. Like, there's people who have entire YouTube channels dedicated to.
Eric, they crush fitness.
Yeah,
like they crush it.
Absolutely.
I can't stress it
Well,
enough.
I mean, like PewDiePie is the biggest YouTuber ever. You know, so. I think it's probably good that I was playing video games before there wasn't a clear path to anything besides having fun playing video games.
Yeah.
Because maybe I could have talked myself into, hey, this is fun. I like it. I'm going to do it. But yeah, I was big into video games for a long time, but I found they were fun. And I normally gravitate towards things I'm excited about, I'm passionate about. I'm very, as much as it looks like I'm like a jack of all trades, like, you can do all these crazy weird things you wouldn't expect. It's really actually, I've had these periods of my life when I've been completely hyper-focused on one thing, and then it either petered out or I felt I had a talent for it or I could take it far or I didn't. Yeah. So like the hip-hop thing, while I was a pretty good MC, it took a lot of effort on my part to have the same kind of rhythm and flow that came natural to a lot more other rappers. Like, I tend to have good rhythm and stuff when I'm dancing, but it doesn't translate. Yeah. Like, it's not like I'm off beat, but it doesn't quite have, I can't like flip patterns and things like that. So anyway, I eventually said, this hip hop thing's not working for me. And I started working out around that similar time. And that became something where I was like, you know what? I don't actually think I'm that gifted for weightlifting. I'm probably compared to like general population. Yeah. I don't think everyone could eventually squat, like 495 or, bench 360 or deadlift 556.
What? Wait, you're ruining it for all the kids watching this shit,
listen, I'm just trying to tell my numbers. You're interrupting me. Okay.
I'm trying to brag about this shit.
And, get a pro card, and I'm very impressive, and please validate my ego. But, so I've done okay. Like, it's really nothing that impressive, but I think a lot of people don't get anywhere near there. And they typically quit if they don't. So, we kind of have this altered perspective now with social media where we think like the standard good squat is at least 600 pounds, you know? But anyway, the point is that I said, you know what, you may not be the best right now or think you have the talent to become it, but you need a deeper reason to do something. And let's just stick with this shit.
Yeah. So why, said deeper meaning, why didn't you just become like a Jehovah's Witness or something where you said like, I'm looking for that deeper meaning within myself? Now, is there something about fitness in particular?
All the Jehovah's Witnesses listening.
I'm not knocking. No, you said deeper meaning. I remember. So I should give the quick aside. I was approached by a Jehovah's Witness on the bus like years ago.
Right.
But he told me, he's like, are you looking for deeper meaning?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So I'm going to try to loop in a couple questions here. So the main reason I stopped playing video games was that I went all in with it wasn't even fitness for me. It was like bodybuilding. I got in to be like a power lifter and a bodybuilder very early on. I had pretty extreme goals from the start. And I was like, look, this is what I'm doing. And the first time I noticed like, oh shit, I'm like the gym's closing in an hour and a half. I have an hour and a half workout and I'm talking myself into still playing Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Like I swore off. Game. I was like, I'm done, you know? And that was also around the time I was going back to school after I finished the Air Force. And I was like, you know, I want to pursue this intellectually as well. It was all consuming for me. So I got into lifting in a relatively rough patch in my life. I think it started out pretty negative. Like,
what do you mean by rough, Eric?
So I had a close person to me at the time who went through something that was relatively tough for her, and you know, not nearly the same as it was for her, but also on me. And I think it wasn't even about her really. I had just too much unresolved anger around it, and I felt powerless. I think that's when I first realized I'm a bit of a control freak. So not being able to do anything about it, I think I needed some outlet. And I fell on something that was as positive as it could have been versus like, you know, drinking or some kind of other destructive behavior. But I fell into lifting, and I had a friend of mine, Patrick at the time, who was in the Air Force with me, who introduced me on like basically Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. Let's start training like this. And I took it really seriously, probably too seriously, training with kind of almost a masochistic tilt to it. Yeah. But it really helped me work through a lot of things. And I think I needed some type of physical activity. That's the one thing I've learned as I've gotten older. I wasn't really hugely physical in high school. Like I ran track and I used to break dance and like I did martial arts as a kid, but I never really identified as an athlete. But once I felt I could express like emotional catharsis through movement and effort, and I enjoyed some of the, let's be honest, some of the pain associated with lifting. Once I found that, I found it very valuable. And then I got really into it and I was like, you know, I would kind of want to give back. And I found I had a talent for it. I felt I had a talent for teaching people. I got into personal training. So it became a career. It became a passion. I very much identify as someone just part of the physical culture, which is probably why you might see on my Instagram. I give a lot of respect to kind of the roots of bodybuilding and strength sport. And yeah, it became all consuming for me and it became extremely positive, even though it started negative. So when I say something with deeper meaning, I think, not to get way too philosophical, I think like the path to finding happiness and finding meaning in life is doesn't matter. As long as you have something that can lead there. Yeah. Like pursuing something that matters more than just external, extrinsic things. And I think that's kind of what 3D Muscle Journey is all about. It's bodybuilding. It all, you know, like first appearances, it seems extremely externally motivating. It's all about what you look like. But I think the people who gravitate towards 3D Muscle Journey and those of us who founded it, we found that we got something much deeper out of the process of lifting weights and actually also the competitive process of bodybuilding, which tends to be pretty brutal. Yeah. You know, I think a lot of people in the sport of bodybuilding, it's kind of like runners. You know, they're constantly moving. They'll say they're running from something and they're trying to quiet their mind. And not that I really understand that because I'm not a runner, but I think the process of dieting and being hungry and being tired and pushing yourself when you really don't want to is something that really gives a kind of energy to a bodybuilder and shows them that, hey, you can do this. And I think what is tragic sometimes is how that can get dark, you know, and how some people will allow that to destroy their lives. So 3D Muscle Journey is kind of all about a number of individuals who found that it could be destructive, but if directed in the right way, it could be very, I don't want to, like, again, not to sound super corny, but like a transcendent experience. Yeah. Like, wow, I can apply this to other parts of my life. Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Owen Wilson was like, wow, 3D Muscle Journey's deep. And like, I think each one of us would probably say 3D Muscle Journey and many of our clients that they've been able to take things from the bodybuilding journey and apply it to their life and get past some of those self-imposed barriers and achieve more and become happier and then bring that out also into the community to help other people. So that's pretty much like at the core of the meaning I found from bodybuilding.
But Eric, this is what you don't understand, bro. You went from playing Halo to going
and Halo 2.
Halo 2, much respect, all the way to competing on stage, getting tan, oiled up, your buddy putting that spray on tan on those beautiful glutes.
It wasn't spray on. Dream Tan 2.
Dream Tan 2.
It's an oil-based one with flex, so it catches the light. You don't need oil, and you do have to kind of slap it in, or at least that's what we thought in 2009. So I have had my glutes slapped by close friends while I'm wearing a thong many times. Yeah. totally straight sport though, and
Yeah,
like
anyway,
manly,
yeah.
bro. And like, I don't even need to tell you that. You know that I'm so straight because I have muscles. Anyway, go ahead, Omar. What's
so
up?
that was the transcendental experience.
Absolutely.
But I was going to say there's something unique about you and what you guys at 3DMJ try and do, and that is there is that deeper meaning, because for some people they have taken it from, maybe recreational, they're playing video games, to lifting weights, and then they want to compete. But we see all too often maybe that, as you said, it's masochistic, where there's something within themselves, there's emotions driving them. Was that something you always had within you? Because you mentioned before how you'd become hyper-focused. So you did breakdancing for a bit, you did hip-hop. You, on both accounts, anyone that would follow you said you did a good job. Like, it was like, I was kind of half in, I did it half-assed, and I was just part of the scene. It's like, no, you went into it. Same idea when it comes to bodybuilding. Were you looking for more meaning? Did it just come naturally for you? Because I would say for the vast majority, just the lifters, not bodybuilders, just everyone, they're in and out. Like I know from the people that I first started lifting with, roughly now 9 years ago, that a lot of those people stopped lifting. They maybe had the same original goal in mind as you and I when they started, but they dropped off. From you, it seems like from quite early on, you kind of had things figured out. So what is that? Is that just something part of you? Is that something you learned along the way? What is it?
No, I think that's definitely a thread that follows me through life. Like, it's this, I've had an interesting blend. Like, I think if anyone who knew me from the age of, say, like maybe 20, 21 or younger, they would describe me as, a talented slacker. I was the guy who would get into the AP class so I could get a B, so I could get the grade point average of an A. So I felt it was easier than trying to get an A in a normal class, I was the guy who would kind of just rely on his basic common sense instead of really pushing himself. And I think at my core, it was almost that very much like Vince Vaughn from Dodgeball perspective. If you don't try, you won't fail. And I think it came from probably some level of insecurity that just I maybe wasn't good enough. So I think even though, like, maybe objectively people would look at me like, oh, he can dance pretty good. Or if you listen to some of my music, like, oh, he's a pretty good MC. Like, why didn't you just keep going with it? I think I pulled out early. I think I wasn't willing to put in the kind of work that it probably would have taken to go even farther than that.
Were you scared of success, or scared of never being good enough?
Probably both. And I don't know that I had the self-awareness at the time to really get that. I just felt like there wasn't a path forward. It was too much work, and I wasn't getting as much enjoyment out of it as I was. And I think it's kind of like when you're struggling in one area and something else good comes into your life, it's so hard to maintain focus on both. Like, I think we've probably all experienced this in young relationships where, like, the relationship is going bad and you start looking elsewhere. And then if something good happens, like, things are probably not going to go well, So I think weightlifting, lifting weights became like that new hot girl for me. And things are working out. And, fortunately it worked out. And I'm sure that hip hop is doing great without me.
I've heard it's missing that, that thing. There's the Vanilla Ice of, the early 90s. Then there was Soulja Boy in like 2006.
All the greats.
I'm just going through the greats of hip hop history. As I understand it.
Absolutely. You have a solid understanding.
Thank you.
You're an impressively, like, you have a hipster understanding of hip hop.
Yes.
Yeah.
The hip and the hop.
The hippity hops, like like a bunny on a pogo stick. We're killing it. Yeah. So anyway, I think really, I've had this thread in me that I only do things I like, and I perceive that very much as kind of like being a slacker before. Like, you're supposed to do things that are hard. You're supposed to take the calculus class. You're supposed to get a job and just work hard. Stop being lazy, Eric. That's like the inner talk I had for a long time. And I didn't really have that kind of that gear to grind, as the Gary Vee generation says, to hustle. Put in the work.
You gotta hustle, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have that at that time. And so what was different for me is I would hyper focus on something, whether it was a video game, whether it was hip hop, whatever it was that I was interested in at the time. And I didn't ever notice just how hard I was working. Like, I look back and I was breakdancing like multiple hours every day and in my free time. And it's all I was doing. Same thing with rap. I have so many like books of lyrics that I have in storage in Sacramento. But it didn't feel like hard work because I loved it. And bodybuilding became the same way. And same thing with studying. bodybuilding, which is essentially what my career path has been academically. And the investment and time I put into the business of trying to help people in the sport and to create that community that we talked about. So I found, and I've kind of leaned into and accepted that, hey, I tend to have an obsessive mind, one track. I try to stay fleshed out, and I have more self-awareness now that I'm older, and I can see the kind of double-edged sword aspect of that. But, I'm going to do what I love. And now I just understand that maybe it's not restricted to that. And I can stick with it, and I know I'll just get better. So the commitment I made to myself with lifting weights is you're just not going to stop. Yeah. And I remember I told myself that, and you're going to get on stage, and you're going to get on the platform, and you're going to take it as far as you can. And I remember I used to have to convince myself that I could become like Mr. Natural Olympia to stay doing it. And I knew that was a problem. I had this self-awareness, say in like 2006, 2007, that if the key linchpin to me still lifting weights is that I've lied to myself into believing I can become like the next natty prince of the world,
the natty king,
right? Then that's probably not good. Like if I realized that and I quit, I would never get even anywhere close to it. But if I put in a couple decades and just see where I land, it's going to be a hell of a lot closer than having quit 2 decades ago. And I don't think I knew that I would have developed what I have developed. Like, even though it's nothing amazing, it's also nothing to not have respect for. So I can look back and go, shit, man, like you've done pretty good for some dude who just started lifting weights, and you've come a long way. And I think I learned that through the process of contest prep and just weightlifting itself, and competing. So that was something that I really felt was a transformative experience for me, going through and just not allowing myself to quit and seeing that, I may not be the best, but so what?
Why do you think, Eric, that is though, where you just said going through things and then deciding, not to surrender or give up, that process where you say dedication, desire, discipline, 3DMJ, that a lot of individuals, even if they are dedicated when it comes to lifting weight, because I feel personally from lifting weight, I've become a more dedicated, more disciplined individual for sure, where I kind of identified a bit with what you said, where I would slack off and not try and live up to my potential. But lifting weight has shown me, obviously, that if you apply yourself, no matter what, you will make gains, you will make progress. And I'm thankful for what occurred from lifting and what I've learned from it. But I find all too often, at least it's been my observation, that a lot of people that lift weight that still make progress or still build the physique that they want, some of those skills they've developed when it comes to lifting has not translated into other aspects of their life. Do you want to comment on that at all? Like, do you observe that? Is that
all the time?
Something? Yeah.
I mean, I've literally met bodybuilders who have committed everything to bodybuilding, and bodybuilding has destroyed their lives. It's kind of the exact opposite. And that's why I feel a sense of duty, because I hate when I see that happening, because then they lose truly everything, because they committed everything to something that they thought was going to make their life better. Yeah. But they maybe didn't even think that deeply, and I think that's the key. And then when they lose that, they've truly, at least at that point, lost everything, and then they have to redefine their lives. And that's not a bad thing to have to do that, but like the classic American story, and we've talked about this, you hit rock bottom, you bounce up, and then you transcend. Yeah. But a lot of people hit rock bottom, and that's it.
Yeah. Hereditary, anyone?
Oh, dark.
That dark. Can I just say, I felt...
Shout out to Payman.
Oh, Payman's always looking over us. I'm just saying, we shouldn't lose our head over this conversation. I feel our friendship went to the next level, because I think sometimes going through shared experiences can grow you, make two people become closer. And I think that trauma of seeing that movie, which was a phenomenal movie, Hereditary, made us closer together. It's like a shared trauma. Like we
have shared PTSD from that movie. I would totally agree. And not really, because PTSD is real, folks.
Public warning. You should not joke about that.
I'm not.
It's like, actually, I should have qualified. Like, I realize now in my talking to you when I said that Jehovah's Witness interlude, I thought I told you that story, and then like off camera.
So who are you hanging out with who looks like me?
There's this guy called Chris Evans, and he was like in this little, it was like an indie movie. It was called like Avengers Infinity War or whatever.
Not familiar.
Yeah, no, he's he also was like in it's like a French film, Fantastic Four.
Is he that guy who has a decent physique, but his legs are kind of small compared to me?
Yeah, apparently he was in like some American experiment that pumped fluid in him, and he got
right. Yeah, he's not natty.
No, he doesn't know anything about discipline.
I mean, technically, he's been clean for like 70 years.
Oh yeah,
but when you're frozen for half the time, can you really claim natty?
Those satellite cells survive.
Hey, YouTube. Why haven't I seen a fake Natty video about Captain America? I mean, Chris Evans, who I've never heard of.
Oh, yeah. Chris, I don't know him at all. I've not been compared to him often.
Yeah, I have. Does he ever get confused from me? Do people go up to you and go, hey, are you Eric Helms?
Yeah. Dude, 3DMG, I love your shit, bro. I love it. Transformed my life. And he's like, I made Avengers.
And they're like, oh,
haven't heard of it.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Is
that Sundance?
Oh, maybe it's Sundance, probably. Good for you, man. You're a struggling actor. Good for you.
Yeah, dude.
No, I was going to say just the Jehovah's Witness thing. That the context is important. I forgot that I didn't tell you about that. And when the person when you said deeper meaning, it just set off that light bulb.
That's what they said to you.
Well, he sat down next to me. I'm like, are you trying to suck my dick or something? I thought it was like, have you?
That's where you went immediately.
Well, he said, it's like,
ladies and gentlemen, don't sit next to Omar. He's going to make some assumptions about
make
what
a lot
you're
of assumptions
intending.
For our Asperger's program they plan on doing is well,
based on that comment, you will get the discount from now on.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Is it what he said? You look like you're looking for deeper meaning, and just the way that he said it.
You're like, okay, it's either going to be Amway or religion.
And I'm not hating, because actually a really good friend of mine that I worked with at Extreme Fitness, like he's Jehovah's Witness, like super cool guy, but just that person in particular and that experience. And it's kind of like when I told you.
So basically what he's saying, folks, is that 3DMJ is the equivalent to a religion that you need to convert to.
It's a religious experience.
So check us out, 3dmusclejourney.com. Convert today.
Yeah, it's like I think I told you that I won't name the person on social media, but where they approached me, just normal humans, you talk about self-awareness when it comes to bodybuilding, and how this one guy came up to me. He's like, oh man, my fans are going to love this. I never spoke to the guy in my life, and he busts out like his camera phone all of a sudden out of nowhere, films us, puts his arm around me. I'm like, I don't know who you are. What's going on here? I feel my personal space invaded, and that's not what 3DMJ is about, or bodybuilding.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. And so circling back to the question of, why is it that some people get consumed and spit out the other end and they're left with nothing, and other people, like they go from being just kind of an average person to then having a business or being an entrepreneur or being successful in whatever way they define it in their life and hopefully being happy. I think the difference is self-awareness.
Yeah.
If you can from the outside look in and go, why am I doing this? Like, what is meaningful to me? What am I trying to get out of this? Why am I doing this? Why do I lift?
Yeah.
Like you had that wonderful YouTube video recently with that beautiful background. And I don't know who shot that, but
he was called, can you help me? If only you knew some Arabic, it would really help me out.
I think his name is Aus.
Oh, Aus?
So skilled, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to Aus.
Shout out to Aus in the house.
Aus in the house. He's literally in the house right now. Actually.
He won't say anything though, because he's kind of like my favorite. Just
I've grown up with cats my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
When my parents divorced, they got 2 cats for me.
Yeah.
And
that's real nice.
It was.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look at kitties.
Yeah.
And I think that I've always considered them like my brothers.
Yeah.
And I felt very relatable to cats. My wife and I, Barbara, we have our 2 boys today.
Yeah.
And so I have a ton of respect for the space that cats need
and
the unique personalities that they have if you get to know them.
Yeah. You need to get to know them on their terms.
So when I say that Alice is cat-like, I mean that with endearment, respect, and love.
Yeah. No, I understand. But if only, Eric, if only you could express to him in his native tongue, because the man, is Arab. If only you could say something in Arab to him, like Arabic, what would you say
I'd look him in his eyes. And because I'm looking at his eyes, I'd say, Ya aini.
Oh, and what's that mean?
It means you're my eye.
Oh.
Which is an endearing term in Arabic.
Yeah. Well, fun fact, you were part of the Air Force. Was it 4 years?
Yeah, I did a 4-year enlistment, which is actually where I met my wife. We were both Arabic translators, and just enlisted Arabic translators. We did 2 years learning Arabic. I did that in 2001 to 2003. And then, so this is actually kind of one of those times where I just committed. I put all my chips in. So I started lifting weights in 2004 while I was still in the Air Force. I actually joined the Air Force with the goal of being an FBI agent.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of X-Files, probably too much growing up. And
you just wanted to find your Scully.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did. And she's not at all like Scully, but she's even better. Her name's Barbara.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I went in thinking I would do something, and very quickly I was like, I don't actually want to do this. This isn't me. This is like the dreams I had of a 5-year-old, like a little too much cops and robbers kind of mentality. And I was a little bit lost. So at first I thought I'm going to be an MC. I'm going to make a music career. Like I said, I stepped away from that because I thought it was just too hard and not worth it. And I was like, well, the only thing I'm doing right now is lifting weights and trying to get jacked. So why don't I try this personal training thing?
Yeah.
So I decided to take it really seriously. So once I got out of the Air Force, my wife still had a couple years left on her enlistment. I started working at the local YMCA as a trainer and started from like the bottom.
Yeah. And now we're here.
And now we're here. Yeah. Now the whole team's here.
Whole team fucking here.
That's right. And we're actually in Toronto right now. It's great. So anyway, I actually turned down a job working for the NSA as an entry-level linguist to do some training. And because I would have had to move to DC.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, my wife and I were in, well, she wasn't not my wife at the time. My girlfriend and I had only been together for months. And I said, you know what? A, I think this relationship's going to go somewhere else. Much better than just being a girlfriend. Yeah. And then B, I don't want to be a linguist. I don't like this job, but I'm like, 20 and I can make a lot of money and have a pension and security and safety. And instead I said, screw it. I'm going to do what I love.
I love that.
And I'm going to make a minimum wage as a fitness instructor at the local YMCA. And then, here we are 12 years later, and I'm on Mama's Boys podcast. I've made it.
Mama, I made it. Well, I was going to say to you, though, there are just so many things I see in you that I wonder, why other trainers aren't like that? And I feel that sometimes people stumble into lifting, but once you're a part of it and you understand it really clicks for you, you're in for life. And I said that before. An analogy I use is if, I Am Legend happened.
Yes.
I'm Will Smith. And somehow I had, the facility to train. Let's just say somehow there's a garage somewhere that barbells. I would still continue to lift because I love the process. For you as a trainer, though, and we spoke about this off camera, there's so many bad trainers. And I'm not talking shit. I just mean that it's kind of a transitory career, for a lot of individuals. When we talk about you having that hyper focus, was that something from the get-go? Because you made that critical choice, as you said, and I made a relatively similar one in that I was at university at a full paid scholarship, and I had, due to my loans, the way it worked, they were paying me to attend school. In addition to the scholarship, was living with my aunt. I had no expenses whatsoever. But the training, I'm like, this is actually pretty fun. I think I'm going to do this instead. And to an outside perspective, at that moment, you're making a bad choice. And so for you, what was that, Eric, that made you decide? Because there's many things you tried before. You said, like, maybe hypothetically, when I was younger, I wanted to be an FBI agent. You enrolled in the military, the MC, the breakdancing, even taking video games. If you knew maybe video games, there could be a career, maybe you would have tried that.
Thank God I didn't.
Yeah.
Or maybe, oops.
Because
PewDiePie is killing it.
He is, yeah. You could have been the original PewDiePie. I'm sorry you're here, bro. I apologize.
I thought I made it like 5 seconds ago, and now I feel like I failed.
You did make it. Well, see, that's
someone who also had deeper meaning in fitness once said that we're all going to make it.
R.I.P. Yeah, I think he kind of nailed it, though. And that's why you said, speaking of that positivity,
yeah, that's what we think when we think of him.
No, I mean, there's a lot of life lessons to learn from anyone, and if we could learn that and take it away, then the life is not in vain, I feel. But for you, Eric, what was that where you decide, you made that critical choice, as you said, I'm making up numbers, probably earn $70,000 a year out of the gate, or earn minimum wage as a trainer. What was it about you that thought, hey, I want to do this instead?
Honestly, it was the same feeling I had when I was young, and I was like, I want to be a police officer. I want to be a cop. Yeah. It goes deeper than just the few things we talked about. Yeah. I literally started like an Encyclopedia Brown style detective agency when I was a little kid, and tried to solve crimes and I was like a little narc when I was a child. It wasn't good.
You're close to LARPing, as you said, but not actually.
No. Tabletop role player. Okay. We look down on LARPers. They're nerds, But no, I was extremely dedicated to the goal of becoming I saw myself as a law enforcement civil servant or police officer, and eventually FBI. And that was all I focused on and thought about from when I was 5 all the way through, maybe I was 14. And then I just didn't know what else to do. So I held on to it through high school. I really succeeded in finishing my plan. I got into the military, got into military intel, and made it into, and passed an Arabic course. I did everything to do. And if you looked at my resume, they'd be like, yeah, he's in a good place to now go work and do exactly what he wanted. And then I realized, and I got there, I was like, I don't want to do this. And I didn't have that same feeling. So I could tell when I had that drive and something just drove me and I had passion for it. And I also knew the feeling when I started to have that doubt and I would, step away from it. And in some ways I stepped away from being an FBI agent. I think it was just a bad match, but that, it stuck with me that I didn't follow through. The same thing with hip hop. So when weightlifting came along and I felt that same feeling, as soon as I recognized it and I knew like this is all I care about right now, I pushed all my chips forward. I didn't even look at my hand.
I'm all in, baby.
Like they we were playing poker, and you're going to tell how much I don't play poker. I didn't even look at my hand. I didn't look at what cards were on the table. I just looked at my chips. I pushed them all forward, and I walked away.
I like that.
And by walking away, I mean I did the fitness, but just to be more dramatic.
Sure.
So yeah, like I just put all my chips in, and I said it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do what I'm passionate about. Period. Full stop. Not to say that I'm not pragmatic and I don't make reasoned decisions, but I just knew that this was the path. I'll walk the path in the most efficient and intelligent way I can and responsible way, but I'm not getting off it, no matter what. So I think the reason was that same feeling. So yeah, and that means I took it very seriously. So you're right. There are a lot of trainers who I think because they're in a transitory state and being like they lifted weights and maybe they couldn't really figure out what career worked for them. And I don't think they're fully focused on training because they're seeing it as kind of, I'm doing this now because I like to lift, but I need to figure out what my career is.
Yeah.
I think that's very understandable because I'd say for most of the history of recent fitness where there's been personal trainers, it hasn't been given like a serious consideration as a credible career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm part of the movement trying to change that to say, hey, this is something that should be taken seriously. But I understand that those who don't see it that way, it's hard to take it seriously because you're like, well, should I go back to school? Maybe I should start some other business. Maybe I should talk to my dad and follow in his foot. Whatever. Like I don't know what the mentality is of all the people who aren't fully committed. But I think they probably know just how much information is out there and the certification process that it is more than just, hey, I lifted and I did okay and I can just pass that information on. I think it does come down to not seeing as a viable career for them.
Yeah.
And the only good trainers I know are those who do see it as a viable career.
Now for you, I'm taking the point from when you started lifting now to deciding to be a trainer.
Yep.
I see already that drive. Okay. I understand an individual that's playing Baldur's Gate all the way until it's time for the gym to close. You're a dedicated individual. The discipline now, you have the desire, you have the dedication. What about the discipline of lifting? Let's talk about that because even if you had that passion, there's a lot of people that have that passion. And to quote the Immortal Survivor with their song, they say, I believe it's, you trade your passion for glory, but you kept on that path, towards self-betterment, staying true to yourself. And at no point, and that's why I can't stress this enough for people listening, people watching, that often along the way towards their career in the fitness community, there's a lot of temptations, either anabolics or the one that we see now that we could draw a parallel on social media would be selling bullshit. Because, and you told me something and I'm like, I'm going to push back slightly just on that, where you said, I think you can make as much money being legit as, kind of marketing another way. And I actually think that, appealing to emotions and being insincere and hyping things up is the reason why those at the top are at the top and they make more money. But there's been so many temptations. Where did the discipline come, first off, to even do a bodybuilding show, to try and be a top tier coach, to dedicate yourself fully to this instead of, just being like, I moved, I decided to become a trainer, I worked minimum wage, I built up my client base, and that's it for me. What is that thing within you?
Yeah, I think it's really important to stress that. So the dedication came from that just movement of, I recognize this in me. This is something I really care about, and I'm going to push the chips all in. Boom. So that's dedication. The desire came from that natural, all-encompassing focus I have. Like all I can think about is lifting. The desire came naturally to me. The dedication I had to force and draw a hard line in the sand for myself and my brain. But the discipline I didn't have yet. And I think discipline can very much be a learned trait. I've seen it in my clients, every prep getting easier. As you're getting older, prep's getting easier. What's going on? Should be harder, right? But the reality is that you learn that skill over time. And I committed to getting on the platform, I committed to getting on stage, and I committed to educating myself as a trainer and doing right by my clients. And it took a lot of time. And I think And that's why I got so motivated to do something like 3DMJ, is because through my 2007 and then 2009 preps, those were by far the hardest things I had ever done. I haven't had a tough life or anything like that, but
you've had a few splinters in your hand.
That's right. Literally. Yeah. So 2009 was a very tough year for me. And 2007, just anyone's first contest prep is not easy. Let's put it that way. So I really kind of learned how to be a disciplined individual through that, and just saw how much it brought to my life. And I was able to then translate that to other places. So that's where the discipline came from. And I think you're right. It takes discipline to actually hold true and not attempt to, not even calling it selling out, but just taking a more obvious path to success, if you define success as followers and monetary income. But I will push right back against you and say that I think you can get actually more income in the long run, sticking to and not changing brand and not pivoting to the point where you're no longer recognizable to where you started. There's a great book by Halliday, The Perennial Seller, which I recommend anyone in any industry to read, because it talks about a lot of the myths we hold that actually aren't supported by the data. If you look at the sales of things over time, where we think that the big, huge launch and the sexy thing that right now capitalizes on the pulse of the industry that you push right now and it blows up and then dies off is actually going to get more money and more following and more recognition and more notoriety over time than something that is a slow but continual burn. And it's just not the case. It's not the case in the movie industry. It's not the case among books. And it's certainly not the case in the fitness industry, because a lot of the people who we would probably off air talk some shit about.
Talk that talk.
Who, probably from the outside, you just think we were hating on because they have, definitely a bigger following than I, and maybe a bigger following than you, or at least maybe a faster growing following than you. They're not going to be here later. And I think that's something to really consider. Like, you're going to have to totally reinvent yourself a couple times if you go that way, because you're beholden to the ADD potential of the transient fitness market. If you're marketing for the people and providing value to the people who are going to be in fitness for a lifetime, by definition, it's going to be slower growth. And I mean, let me ask you a question. When was your first fitness YouTube video?
It was all the way in 2009. Before I go on, let me just say, thanks for embarrassing me on my own damn podcast, showing I was wrong. You changed the game, Eric, by saying it was long-term success. And I would agree with you if you stay true to yourself. I 100% agree with you.
Well, I appreciate you changing your position and realizing I'm right.
Yeah, I think that's called maturity. I'm trying over time. Being 13 right now, I have a little bit. Yeah, I'm currently going through puberty. I don't know if you could tell right now by my facial hair situation.
You for a 13-year-old, I would say, man, you look at least 17.
Oh, thank you.
At least.
I am honored.
If not 17 and a half.
How do you say that in Arabic, where you said, what's the thing, like...
Shukran.
Yeah, what's that mean?
That means thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And now people are going to ask, is Eric Arab? Because I get that all the time. Like, are you Arab, bro?
No, I did 23andMe, and like on both sides of my family, there was like rumors like, I think we have some Native American. Total bullshit.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually a mutt because I'm Irish, Scottish, and English, and a little bit of Scandinavian.
Ooh.
So I'm actually quite ethnically diverse.
I was going to say that. A quick aside, I'll go back to that video in 2009, because we go off on tangents, but we always come back around here.
We bring it back for you.
I think it was Jessica Biel. She was on that show. It was basically like an ancestry show where they trace back your ancestors, like talk all about it, take you to some of the sites, and people have some, strong revelations. Wow, I didn't know I was so diverse. I didn't know my ancestors did this, accomplished this, all these things, right? So I believe it was Jessica Biel. And so she said, you know what, like, I'm really interested in doing this because I just don't know where it was it my great-great-grandfather, whatnot, but I know I have some indigenous blood in me, right? And I really want to know where it's from, and I just feel it's like a part of me, and I know this. And so the guy's like, okay, cool. So they do the blood test and all that stuff, and they reveal the results there. Okay, you are 43% British, you have also some Scottish in you, and so forth. And he's like, and it looks like you have no indigenous blood.
Yep.
And she got offended. She's like, no, that's not right.
I know the truth.
No, what? No, if I self-identify, no, this is not, like, she had built up that narrative so much in her head because, again, it gets passed down. Like, you think, like, maybe that's the truth.
And we're all, I think you actually said this earlier in this trip, like, we're all struggling to find meaning and to find an identity and to know, like, who we are.
Yeah.
Are you telling me something on my face?
No. I was scratching. I was scratching myself.
Just for those who aren't watching the video, he scratched his face while looking at me, and I thought something was on my face. Then he looked at me like, something on my face? And then it kind of derailed the
I would
conversation.
just touch your face if I had to remove something.
Like, don't worry, I'll get this booger for you.
Yeah, I got you, bro.
You're like a true friend.
True homie, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, my hand was on your butt earlier. Okay,
I don't remember that.
You don't recall that? There's a reason why you don't recall that.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not mad.
Yeah.
No.
How can we stay mad?
I didn't even get mad in the first place.
Well, because you don't remember it. Precisely.
Exactly.
Here I am.
Yeah.
I was going to say that 2009 was my first video. See, I go right back to that shit.
Yeah, we did, and we're not even going to complete that thread of finding meaning through your ancestry. So 2009, first YouTube video. No,
because the past doesn't matter. As Pantera, the legendary philosophical metal band, had a song called "Yesterday Don't Mean Shit."
It's true.
It don't.
It don't.
It don't.
It don't.
So let's talk about. Well, we're talking about 2009. Yeah, so I was gonna. 2009 was my first video to follow up to what you're saying.
See, I honestly can't think of any other YouTube channel that has been around since 2009 that has intentionally and consistently done their best. Yeah. Not always succeeded.
No.
To put out.
Largely failed. Yeah, we're kind of like, if you take a bunch of darts and throw them at the board, one's going to stick.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
We're joking, but I think you've always had the right intentions and you've always done the best to better yourself. You've grown as a fitness professional over the years substantially.
I sucked so bad. I showed some of the videos at the start.
Dude.
Oh, no, Eric, bro. Like,
dude, you don't want to see what I did to my clients, and I apologize. And please don't sue me if you find out that I'm still around and haven't been killed by a client to the people I worked with early on.
Okay.
But truly, like there has not been YouTube channels like yours that have been around from the start.
Yeah.
There are other good YouTube channels, don't get me wrong, but last 4 or 5 years tops.
Wow. Eric.
Owen Wilson, yeah. So I remember you were doing your first YouTube channel or videos in 2009. 2009 was when we were first talking about forming 3DMJ backstage.
Yeah.
And we had, Berto and I had our contest prep logs on the forums, which was like the closest thing to social media at that time.
Yeah.
That was, so like we have been doggedly going in the same direction, you and I, for almost a decade now.
Yeah.
And that's playing the long game.
Yeah. Oh, we're playing the long game. And I think what's crazy though, and
it's playing an authentic game.
I agree with you.
Like I don't want to like get on my like hipster high horse.
I do it all the time.
But I've been, I know who I'm talking to and I know who I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
And I could go more broad general fitness. I could, capitalize on certain things and it would probably still be helpful. But I know that I'm, as small of a niche market it is, it's like I'm here to help other drug-free competitive bodybuilders and powerlifters find deeper meaning and have a longer career.
Yeah.
That's not a big market.
No, but you've, as you said, by staying true to yourself, it took a long time. Let's just backtrack this because some people might see you now. They see your followers on the Instagrams. They may be picked up your books, some of your services, and you're known in the industry. As you said, you're kind of like in the evidence-based community. You're at the top tier. Awesome. But I mean, I personally feel that way. And you've kept yourself, again, with integrity. I can't stress this stuff. Hold on, let me just...
so the question for you. So if like, there was a collection of like people with integrity... and folks who are like evidence-based and they're like content producers. And let's say, like if there was like, if you think about the United Nations Security Council, there's 5 permanent seats. Yeah. Omar, would I have one of the 5 permanent seats?
Yeah, absolutely. I would give Alan Aragon a seat. I'm not... It's like, I would give him, it's like, I don't have to. Who
are you?
Who the fuck are you? No, but in my opinion, Alan would have a seat.
Lithuania stands up and says, you know what, China? I'll let you on the Security Council.
Brad, for sure. Schoenfeld.
Good choices.
You would be, like, you said 3, like, I'll choose 3. There's many others that would be in consideration, but the people that have been that consistent. And the thing I would say too, and people don't realize this, maybe even on social media.
So, by the way, just in case Brad or Alan are listening, those permanent seats, you can't remove the other person. Yeah. So just like the U.S. really wishes China and Russia weren't there, you might wish I wasn't here, but I ain't going nowhere.
I ain't going shit. But that's what I was going to say is people on social media don't realize that, and that's why I'm going to big ups you in a second here, that the amount of temptation that people get online, I probably turn down $100,000 worth of endorsements a year just because it doesn't align with me.
Me too, brother. Like
Reebok said, "Hey, let me make a shoe for you." And he said, "Fuck you."
I'm not making the Helms Reebok shoe. Reebok, if you call me, we can reconsider. But you've already called me. It's not really true, but please call me.
Call me, boys. They don't really, and I've seen this too, and that's why when we say there's a lot of pretenders, when it comes to natural bodybuilding, a lot of other things, I've seen people on Instagram, Eric, be like, man, I'm all about this game. I'm about powerlifting. Like, powerlifting's my soul. Like, I ain't gonna sell it. I see all these people, yeah, they rep that. Sure, what is it? They get a brand and they offer them. I ain't gonna do that. As soon as they get like a $500 offer where they rep like a detox tea or a like official, that's not necessarily terrible, but they're the first to sell out. The first people to hate are the first people to sell out. So you've been like 2009. That's pretty much, you guys are coming up on 10 years. And it wasn't like it was a success overnight. It's not like, hey, 3DMJ and boom, clients came, right?
No.
But you stuck with it all that time and it grew. Was there ever a period of time where you thought to yourself, like, shit, man, this ain't happening? Like, I might have to go back to that linguistics job or what?
Not even that. I mean, we all had side. Well, here's the kind of interesting thing. So it started out as Jeff's blog.
Yeah.
And then, Berto and I met Jeff, and Brad met Jeff backstage competing in 2009. We were all competing except Berto. He was basically kind of like my handler, and the man in my corner. And we got to talking, and we just realized how much we had a shared vision that we could only really fully elaborate on collectively. Yeah. That was kind of the birth of it. But so Jeff, and we've talked about this many times, he was working in a very stable auto plant called Numi, which employed a ton of people in the Central Valley. Very, very good pay, a great benefit package. He'd been there for, I think, like close to 18 years. I might have that wrong, but more than a decade. Yeah. And closer to 2 decades than one, if I got my numbers right. And 2009, the economy was still kind of at the bottom.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, and the plant got closed. So he got a separation package and had to figure out what to do. This is right around the same time where Berto and I pitched him the idea, and then we shortly after that contacted Brad. But Brad, myself, and Berto had second jobs all the way through to maybe 2011, 2012. Wow. And Brad has been part-time for a while still, and he's considering right now going solo. So it's like we didn't quit our day jobs for a while.
Yeah, and people don't realize that too when it comes to pursuing, and I'm going to use the big P word, passion, that sometimes I think...
Well, that's the big P word.
That's the big... What were you thinking it was going to be?
I had like 3 others in my head, and I got really excited. But
I'm sorry.
That works.
I'm sorry. Were you going to say patience, perseverance, pestilence?
I was going to say penis.
Oh, penis. Yes. The most important P.
Well, let's not like disrespect the other sex. Like, what? I think pussy is...
This is dude ranch right here, bro. Ew. What? Ew. We're talking natural bodybuilding, striated glutes, and you bring that shit in here?
Hey.
Hi.
Striated glutes are awesome on all bodybuilders, men and women. Okay. I can't handle this sexism.
I'm just talking about what I appreciate when I look with my eyes.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to allow you to maintain this because I know that you let's just say you have some feelings that are closeted.
Yeah, I'm still figuring them out.
And I respect that.
My dreams are very vivid, but I could never remember them when I wake up.
Right.
But I'm always in a hot sweat. What happened here? Yeah, I watch, whenever I watch the Olympia, I just I have to turn the air conditioning all the way up.
Greco-Roman wrestling is probably my second favorite sport.
I was going to say, when you mentioned that about passion.
Yeah, passion. P word.
Passion. Yeah, passion. That P word. Yeah, that one. It's interesting because a lot of people think, I'm going to quit my job, pursue my passion, and it's just going to happen. It took me before on my own, I was a personal training director at this posh gym. I decided right around that time is when I started YouTube, but YouTube I wasn't even thinking of having as a career. And then I launched my own strength classes, and I ran those all the way into, I believe they officially stopped. 2012 is when I first started making moves to monetize my YouTube presence, but it's 2013. So it's only been about 5 years where I've done social media full time, but I had those strength classes for a long period of time. I did online coaching. I stopped training people to mid 2013 in person. Yeah. But it was a concerted effort of 18 months. In 2012, January, I said, I actually want to do YouTube full time. And so, and I tried really hard, and it took 18 months. And so it takes a lot longer than people think. And sometimes, things go in peaks and waves where you might have to rely on something else. Something just happens. I think the fitness industry, actually, for those that are considering getting into it, I did a poll, Eric, and I found that over half of you were interested just in fitness. And I think if those are interested in fitness, they should know something. They should know that no matter what you do, that the fitness industry is more stable, quite honestly, than other industries. And I mean that on YouTube, even though I feel YouTube fitness, it hasn't peaked, but it's had some strong points. It will outlast many other industries just because I think lifting is an integral part of being human. And so, as you said before, like you started 2009, now it's 2018. I don't think the peak of 3DMJ has occurred yet.
And I hope it's going to be kind of just this slanted slope.
Yeah.
If we have hit huge peaks out of nowhere, but it looks like a peak when you're in the moment because relative to where you were, it's quite a jump. But relative to where you might go, that's why you kind of have to stay committed to the mission statement, because when things change, that's when you're likely to get a little fearful or too excited. You either get too scared or too excited and you kind of go, well, I need to do way more what we just did to get success. Or I'm scared of the success going the wrong direction. We need to just really batten down the hatches. And I think both of those are probably not the right reaction. You need to think and really kind of gather your thoughts and look at where am I, how did I get here, and where do I want to go before stepping forward. Because it's very easy to then just take a pivot that might be disloyal to yourself and the brand you've created and the people who've given you their loyalty, really.
Well, Eric, let's just hop right into it. I want to ask you a couple hot questions. The temperature's hot. The hashtag science crew. So when you say, I said evidence-based approach for you, but what does that mean first when we say evidence-based approach? Because I see a trend personally, and I know for you, like social media is maybe third on your list of things to focus on. Like you have your career, your PhD, you teach, you have your companies, you're trying to affect a lot of positive change. You're like, I wonder what the latest social media trend is, but I do. And I've noticed there has been the hashtag science crew, which is people that like use science. They don't really care about the process, the scientific process or the scientific method, but they want to use that to differentiate themselves from other brands. Like, no, I'm not a bro. Like I use hashtag science. For you, what does evidence-based mean to you? And then what do you think about the overall hashtag science move?
That's a good question. I think, well, for one, I would say that I do pay a lot more attention to social media and marketing because I realize that it's like, you wouldn't make a great album and then not worry about distribution.
I'm just going to give it to my friends.
Not
going to sell it.
Like, especially when you have a goal of trying to affect positive change, I got to improve my reach, And at the same time, the balance is really just improving your reach while still reaching the people who actually want what you want instead of just going, what can I do to improve my reach? And then you're like, well, hold on. You're doing this to get followers, but it doesn't at all match what you're actually providing. And that's where you get less engagement, because you don't have like brand consistency. Anyway, so I just threw out a lot of words. I can also say the word disruptor if that helps.
I like
and
that word.
Now hopefully people know that I'm a influencer. And I have some hacks. And I hustle.
Shortcuts?
Shortcuts, definitely, So anyway, everything I said I meant. I just realized it sounded very ridiculous, but I wanted to point that out. I do think marketing is important. I do think you have to pay attention to it. And I think it's kind of cool that science has become a marketing strategy. As much as it ended up being that way for us back in the day when it was a lot less popular, we did truly just believe it's a better way to go, and we wanted to try to affect that change. And we've kind of succeeded. But I don't get that mad when people are, let's say, doing the hashtag science thing, which I'll talk more about. I'm going to ramble for a bit here. Because to me, it's a step in the right direction, or if it's at least better than where you used to be. Like the old school way was we'd find the person with the most awesome physique, either in the gym, in the magazines, or now on Instagram or YouTube, and then just treat them like a guru. Like what they say is right. I'm going to do what you have me do, and that's about all I need. Now, basically, science has become a guru. But once you get in the door and once you get exposed to science, you start to learn a little bit, and you get to see that, things change. There's nuance, there's context. And even if, like, I'll give you an example of myself. Before I was a full-fledged person who understood science and could read a full text of a study, or had conducted research myself, or really kind of took in as a life philosophy and a way of thinking, like rational skepticism and the scientific method, I knew enough to realize that, man, that guy Alan Aragon, that dude Dr. Joe Klimczewski, that guy Lane Norton, that guy Lyle McDonald, that guy James Krieger, they've got the right perspective. Like, what they say makes logical sense. They change their mind, and they seem to follow something besides just purely what's popular.
Yeah.
And they consider a lot of things from different angles, and they make some really good points. I don't quite have the ability to do what they do, but I can discern that they are different from the rest.
Yes.
So I made them my gurus. And that's really all I could have done at that point. And it wasn't until I actually started pursuing it more deeply and self-educating that I was able to do actual, scientific method and rational skeptical thinking. So, I can't hate too much. Like, we actually, we succeeded.
Yeah.
People value science and see it as a selling point versus just pure traditionalism and bro wisdom. So yeah, success always brings problems that you didn't expect. That's just kind of the nature of social change, right? And you have to be able to understand that. So you probably noticed, if you follow my content now and you follow 3DMJ, we do a lot of de-emphasizing the value of science because it only has certain limited applications. Like, we talk about the value of the art of coaching, So it got to a point where science was everything. Like, your credibility as a trainer was based on your methods.
Yeah.
But your best practice doesn't make you a good coach. Coaching is a relationship with someone. And you can be a fantastic coach who's just a little behind the times or doesn't have access to good information. Like, are we actually going to say that if we go back 20 years, that the best coaches were actually crap?
Yeah.
Because they just had old science? Of course not.
Yeah. They produced great results. They had great relationships with their clients.
Absolutely. So we have to separate the methods someone uses versus their overall coaching philosophy and the relationships they form. And they're not the same, which is important. So what I try to do is I try to break some of the stereotypes, a lot of what people see as the quote unquote evidence-based community. And I'm very comfortable saying the evidence-based community, even though it may not be the best descriptor, because we all know what that means. The word has a representative meaning, which is not totally true to the textbook definition of evidence-based, which is kind of like this, three-headed monster of your experience, the preference of your client, and then the evidence. Yeah. Hashtag science just kind of typically only looks at the evidence part. Like the perennial, not really evidence-based, but hashtag science approach is to, when someone says something, you say, I disagree, and just put a link to an abstract on PubMed. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And completely devalue.
Science disagrees, bro.
Yeah, sorry, man. Your personal experience and your client's preferences don't matter for evidence-based training. And you're like, what? That's actually 2/3 of it. So I think what I try to do is expose people to not only science, which is just knowledge, but critical thinking and learning.
That's good.
So I really try to do things like, hey, consider this. Here's the context. And that's why, on our 3DMJ podcast, we have really long form.
You stop plugging your podcast, bro.
So if you haven't gone to 3dmusclejourney.com and subscribed to the 3DMJ podcast, where we have only the best guests, which is just us and no one else. You've got to check it out. No, it's
fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I know you listened because everyone does. No, I'm kidding. Totally kidding. But you do. That's all right. Anyway, what we talk about is really giving context to what has become too much of a science kind of biased industry. Like I said, we succeeded, but there are some big problems. And it's maybe better than it was, but it brings up a new crop of problems. So I think we have to understand that science is an ever-evolving body of knowledge. And more importantly, it's a way of thinking and an attitude. So you still see people being, condescending or acting like they have all the answers, or separating themselves from all the fools who don't follow science. Yeah. When in reality, rational skepticism is about, humility and being open to change, and not taking an absolute stance like you are standing on a mountain on high, which is absolutely non-scientific at its core. So I think that's really what I try to emphasize. And it's a constant battle, but it's one that I actually enjoy doing because people have already bought into it. And it's almost like you have people who are on board, they want to learn something, and what they thought they knew, they're actually getting a deeper understanding of. And it's different than when you're trying to engage people who actively don't want science, people who are like, the traditional one you see is the bros versus the science guys.
Yeah.
And that's a battle where they just dig in their heels and you argue about who's biggest. And then you point out that that's a logical flaw. And they say you're a nerd for talking about logical fallacies. And then you post a PubMed link and then they post a picture of Kai Green and it never stops. And
you just post a picture of a grapefruit back and said, come at me, bro.
Exactly.
But don't please, actually.
Yeah. And I don't actually want that. But so that describes most interactions. But when I'm preaching, when I'm talking to my own followers who are already like, oh, science is great. And then they go, oh shit, that's not science.
Yeah.
They're already open to learning. And I think it makes a much larger impact than just converting people to going, okay, I guess I just need to follow people who understand science.
Okay. So if I have this analogy correct, hashtag science is kind of like that indie band when it first started, where they had that cult following of people that loved them to death because at its core, it represented them perfectly. And then over time, as they got a little better, as they went a little more mainstream, they had that one hit that really broke out. And now everyone's talking about that indie band, but their hardcore following's like, no, you don't understand. That's not like what they were about. Okay, this is what they're really about. But even still, it doesn't matter because everyone likes now this indie band. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's kind of like, dude, that wasn't Eminem's first album. Have you not heard Infinity?
Infinity.
And then you're like, man, now Eminem sucks. And you're like, no, he doesn't. That's why you have Infinity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like,
Infinity.
like
there's always Infinity.
The hipsters have it wrong too. Like just because everyone is now latched onto it doesn't make it shitty.
No,
but it does mean that we need to educate people a little more about the philosophy behind it and the deeper meaning versus just the popular tip of the iceberg.
Paying the lip service.
Absolutely.
Well, Eric, I got a few questions now for you. One is going to be natural bodybuilding, because there's a lot of individuals out there. I will state for the record, Eric, that I think you are 100% natural. I think you're a lifetime natural. I believe.
I am actually not a lifetime natural.
It was what was it?
I was on the pro hormone train like we all were in the mid 2000s, my friend.
Yeah. No, but sorry. I guess what I should say is that's the extent of it, though. What you said.
I mean, it's nothing crazy. Basically, and then you could even find. I think they deleted them because they're not.
I benched 500 pounds when I was on them, but I was like, no big deal.
So I won the Olympia in 2005. No, I mean, honestly, I think, like many people in the mid 2000s, I was just young, impatient, and didn't really think about the long term side of it. I wasn't competing yet, and I didn't think about what it would mean. And these were like second age pro hormones that I took. I think like a total of maybe 13 weeks. Over a 2-year period. Where I did that stuff. And I once I got into natural bodybuilding and learned about it, I was like, oh shit, some organizations ban this. I need to call all these guys, figure out where I can compete. I couldn't do WNBF for 2 years.
Wow.
I couldn't do NANBF or what was IFPA at the time until 2011. But it's been 12 years. Yeah. I've only lost 40 pounds of muscle since then.
It's like nothing, guys. I've kept everything. But that's what I mean, is that you have that integrity, and I 100% believe you. You've put in the work, and it speaks for itself. Can you comment on the state of natural bodybuilding? Because again, there are a lot of people. There's like 14-year-old boys that are trying to get into lifting, and boys and girls. Yeah. But where they get into lifting, and now these days, we spoke about that before in a YouTube video, but essentially how do I phrase this politely? That the natty witch hunt occurred because there's a lot of people claiming, on the magazine covers and all those things, there were some people falsely claiming to be natural and they were exposed. But then the pendulum kind of switched all the way to the other side. It swung. And now people that aren't enhanced are being accused. Can you just comment, though, on the state of natural bodybuilding as a whole, where you see it as someone that's been in kind of the industry, been in the natural bodybuilding community now for 10 years. Is it better? Is it worse? Is it improving? What's going on with it? Because you are a voice of reason. There are people that have a vested interest. Either they expose people, or there are people that maybe want to keep not an illusion going on, but I would say supplement companies or all those things. They don't want to declare that some of their people that are using their supplements are enhanced. So there's still, I would say, some dishonest marketing, not when it comes to natural bodybuilding, but just the lifting community. And I just want you to comment on the whole thing. Yeah,
it's funny. If you look at it from like a social perspective and what groups and who engaged in this, where it started, it definitely started outside of the natural bodybuilding community. The natty witch hunt, was basically a witch hunt just against the broader fitness industry in general. Where, because especially in the States where the primary like home of fitness industry started, anabolic steroids are seen as a cultural taboo.
Yeah.
They're actually illegal. And they are the 90% of the models who are used, and the selling tactics involve people who use anabolic steroids, or they even sell supplements that sound like them. They're just such a huge part of the supplement industry and the fitness culture that I think there is a point to saying, hey, let's be real here. And there's been a ton of like Bigger, Faster, Stronger, HBO Real Sports, expose on it, all the stuff that's talked about, hey, how prevalent steroid use is in the broader fitness industry, and how that can lead people to have false expectations, or just, basically fraudulent marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that's valuable. Just saying, hey, let's not kid ourselves here. Like, Ronnie Coleman's probably not doing that off of Explode. You know? I think there's value in that. But what started to happen is that, like this whole thing was, all these people who are claiming to be natural bodybuilders, like there's no such thing as a pro-natural bodybuilder. And they mean that from the perspective of only being aware of the IFBB.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this tiny ass niche community that I've been a part of, where we've got like sometimes 30 people in a show, and we got to pull people out of like the freaking audience. Hey, are you a certified judge? Sweet, let's do this show. This tiny little niche community, because we are actually natural bodybuilders and pro-natural bodybuilders, we started catching flack. Yeah. And the funny thing is that most natural bodybuilders have very meager social media followings. Yeah. All the ones you've heard of are like not the champs. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like if you follow like Berto, he every week, or sometimes it's like multiple times per week, he can put out the name or a physique of a natural bodybuilder who fucking blows your mind. He or she, who you've never heard of, because they're not in it to get exposure. They sometimes don't even have Instagram accounts. You know what I'm saying? And so it's these people who are doing it for the love, 90% of the time, I would say, and who they don't want to take. I mean, is it that strange to think that people want to lift weights and get as big as possible and not take drugs?
Exceptionally bizarre.
Yeah, it's so crazy, right? But I think if you've been living in the world of reading muscular development and like, following like the mainstream bodybuilding forums, like you don't get exposed to that. Yeah. So it was a really rude awakening. I remember being actually like emotionally like, what the hell is going on, when like Lane Norton was all of a sudden paraded as the the poster boy for fake natural bodybuilders. Yeah. And I'm like, well, Lane Norton's like all respect to Lane, but he's a mid-level natural bodybuilder. And I would put money on the fact that he's drug-free. And even if he wasn't, which I really don't think I really do think he's natural. Yeah. There's people who've gotten much more impressive physiques than Lane, who are also drug-free. Yeah. And if you don't agree with that, well, I can tell you this: people before steroids even existed, and like in the 1890s, had more impressive physiques than Lane, when it was physically impossible, unless you believe in time travel, to take anabolic steroids. So,
and that's just sorry. One thing I want to say quickly for those that aren't aware, you should check out Eric's Instagram. Helms, is it 3DMJ Helms or Helms 3DMJ?
Helms 3DMJ.
Yeah, where you've been doing a fantastic series, taking a look at true naturals before the steroid era, before steroids were even invented. And those physiques, as you said, we know about Eugene Sandow, this lifter that a lot of people know from like the 1890s, the early 1900s. But you have dozens of examples of individuals that are without a doubt, unless there's time travel, unless Back to the Future is based on a real story, that they are 100% natural and they have amazing physiques, and they would rival people today, and they didn't have the training or the nutrition knowledge that we have now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like there's a parade of physiques who would get probably an 80-20 split of people claiming fake natty versus natty. Yeah. And that should tell you something. You know, if in 1890, when like the industrial revolution and going into the Great Depression, into the 1930s, before testosterone was even a word and before anabolic steroids existed, like if I can show you 50 examples of people who 8 out of 10 people would think were on gear before gear existed, maybe we really need to reconsider what the bar is for what's like capable, what's possible, and I'm not saying you can be like 5'6", 250 pounds on stage, but I think we have these artificially low standards because we became hyper aware of how common in the more mainstream fitness industry, using anabolic steroids and keeping it in the closet was for the purposes of capitalism, know? So I get
friggin' capitalism.
Yeah, it's always capitalism, man. So I totally get why it happened, and I think it needed to happen.
Yeah.
But I think now we're going to need that pendulum to swing back, because who are these people who are spending $2,000 on a plane ticket, flying out to pay $200 to compete in a show that only their family is going to attend, that's not going to get any media exposure, to, if they place in the top 3, to win up to $500.
Yeah. They're losing money no matter what to compete.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And who then don't even take care to be on social media. Like they're gaining nothing from this except for the love for the sport of natural bodybuilding. So it's just so hard for me to see people who you've never even heard of, but because some 18-year-old with a fake account is saying that they're an expert about this, is telling you that they're not on. They're trying to fool everyone. Yet this person never even self-promoted.
It kind of starts to me. It strikes me as a conspiracy theory, and that's what we said.
Oh, absolutely.
In a way, the overarching thing and how to happen and how there was some positive benefits, I completely agree. But how it's gone too far, I also completely agree. Where it is kind of like a conspiracy theory, where no matter what, for those that believe, even in the face of overwhelming evidence, which kind of like where we talked about those people from the pre-steroid era, take a look at those physiques. Man,
you'd be surprised on some of the comments. They're definitely in the minority, because I think most people can't hold that level of
cognitive dissonance
when they know, like, I know steroids literally did not exist. So what could have happened? I've seen people say that, they had higher testosterone levels back then. And I'm like, they couldn't have measured the testosterone levels back then. Testosterone didn't exist. And they're like, well, they were lower in the 80s. And I'm like, so you're just going to assume they just kept rising? So I mean, like, sometime in like 2000 BC, they were like 400-pound muscle men, like just rolling around going,
we have those Greek statues. So of course it has to be true, bro.
Man, not big enough for the kind of testosterone levels you'd have back then based on that like curve.
Yeah.
Or I've heard people who seem to have a basic understanding of how steroids work, yet somehow they think that eating testicles of animals is just as effective. I'm like, hold on. If swallowing semen gave the same effect as anabolic steroids, there would be some jacked sex workers out there. Dudes.
Like, jacked hot guy babes.
There would be a lot of jacked people. Anyone who swings the direction of the penis would be pretty jacked. Like
if you're an individual, if there's sorry, Eric.
Go ahead.
I just gotta say, when we had Else, this is again vulgar, and I just respect you, but I'm still gonna say it. When we had Else define what bukkake meant, it was very touching. The series said, how did she define it? She's very like politically correct.
Yeah, she didn't genderize anyone. It's when a group of people,
group of individuals.
You go ahead.
When a group of individuals, how did she even describe
on another
it?
person?
Ejaculate. When a group of individuals ejaculate on another person,
something like that.
I was like, wow.
Siri, you're so woke.
Siri, hashtag Siri so woke.
So it was. It's interesting how like people have so bought into some of these things that they're saying that I've had people email me and say, I know that you can't develop the physique of a fitness model without anabolic steroids. And I'm like, what? Like you can't get abs?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No, abs are steroids. Come on.
Yeah. So it's gone way too far. And it's people have bought into it so much that they're willing to forget their basic knowledge of physiology. They're willing to entertain impossible facts of before we could even do lab tests to measure testosterone, we knew their testosterone levels were higher.
It's just a fact.
Yeah, and also like it's not like as soon as testosterone was discovered and synthesized in Europe in the mid 30s that it immediately went into production. It's not like I think World War II happened. I don't think we had Google Translate. We couldn't make long distance phone calls. We couldn't even fly nonstop to other continents.
Were you there? How do you know?
Yeah, I know. History books are bullshit.
Yeah. They're written by capitalists.
They're written by the fake natties. The Illuminati.
Oh, the Illuminati is what I coined, which I love. I think it's like any great grand conspiracy where there's a few things where it's like almost where they talk like reptilian overlords. It's like you could almost see in this photo.
The shadow pinners.
The shadow pinners. Well, I've been called the shadow pin. I take it as a compliment, I finally made it. It's like, mama, I made it. I actually, it's like when someone accuses me now, it's rare, but it does happen. Like 1 in 100. It's mainly 99 comments are you're fat, you're weak, you need to build muscle. And there's that one guy that's like, I know you're using steroids. That you're too buff. I'm like,
I love how it's right after the one where you're too small and too weak, and you're also on gear. It's kind of like, I don't know what to do.
Choose one. But I'm actually going to call something out, Eric, and I don't mean to make you uncomfortable. But I actually think from training with you now for several times, and we're going to train several more times.
You're damn right we are.
That I think it's social media, and I think what I mean, I know individuals on social media. I'm not going to call out any names, that they don't train as hard, and they use anabolic assistance, and they get that physique, and they basically just coast, and they create that illusion where they're training, not that hard, and then they get this great physique. It's like, well, wait, how is that possible? It's like, meanwhile, those that are actually putting in the time and effort, like you, where you put me through a workout, I'm like, I had DOMs in my legs for a long period of time. It's not like a Hollywood workout where it's like, all right, bro, it's time to train arms a little bit, 3 sets of 10. Like, there are RP9s, there's a lot of sets, there's a lot of reps, there's a lot of mind-muscle connection going on. I don't think a lot of people out there realize how intensely a lot of true natural bodybuilders lift, as opposed to what I was going to say, fitness personalities on social media. And then they say, it's like, well, there's no way this guy could get this physique. It's like he, obviously, like, he pumps up a little bit and then he looks great. I'm like, yeah, that guy's enhanced. But have you taken a look at the time and effort of this other individual? I had the opportunity to train also with Alberto, and Alberto straight up did put myself and Mike, my boy Silent Mike, to shame in terms of his work ethic, where we're doing like a strength program, we're cracking jokes, we're resting every 5 minutes. And like Berto, like he's like, all right, man, I'm just going to train. And he had that laser-like focus, kind of stopped talking to us, did his whole workout, just completely focused, going all the way to, high intensity. And then he was finished before we finished. I'm like, maybe this is a good indication. If you do this for like 10 years, that you develop superior gains. Just a crazy thought,
And you know what, thank you. That probably is my first thing. I got to lean away from compliments to make me uncomfortable. But I think there's nothing wrong. Like if you want to take anabolic steroids and you want to work at whatever level you want to develop whatever physique you want, that's 100% your choice. And I don't even think you're obligated to tell people. Yeah. I just think you shouldn't deceive people.
Yeah. Try and sell someone on a program based upon your results if those results aren't from the program you're doing.
And it's not, even if you're natural, you probably shouldn't just sell your physique as, and this is all due to this program. There's a lot more going on there. Yeah. That's being evidence-based right there, is that, you can't use a sample size of one to sell a system to everyone.
It worked for me. It's going to work for you. Come on, bro. That's how it works. #science.
Exactly. Not hashtag science. That's not even hashtag science. So I think people can do what they want, and I like, more power to you. Like, if you're an enhanced bodybuilder, you're working just as hard as a natural body. I'm talking about competitive bodybuilders, and you're getting your results through a combination of genetics, hard work, and also all the things you do, including your supplementation. And like, I think that's absolutely fine. And if you're not a competitive bodybuilder and you're taking anabolic steroids, I always scratch my head a little bit, like, I don't know why you would do that, but it's totally your choice. I don't have to get it. It's your choice, But like I said, I think the only issue is when someone gets accused who is actively stating, I am natural, and they actually are. Yeah. And if you are just, say, watching mainstream fitness or just general YouTube fitness, it may be that the majority of people who get accused actually are, maybe slightly more than 50%. Yeah. But in my experience, where I've kind of been insulated from that. I don't, as you brought up all these YouTubers. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, cool.
Right, I know them. Yeah. Hashtag lifestyle, cool.
Yeah, like, I've been super insulated just in the like IPF lifting community, USAPL lifting community, and like the WNBF and all the natural leagues, like in that community. And when people get accused, like, it's like 9 out of 10 times it's not true. Yeah. So it's funny that the perspective you have is going to be based on what circles you run in. So like the whole Natty Witch Hunt, when it finally got extended to this little sub-community that I'm a part of, we were just, I felt like we were under attack. Like, what the fuck? Like, we've been doing our thing this whole time. Yeah. We're not trying, the funny thing is we rarely get accused by enhanced bodybuilders. Yeah. Because like, people are like, if you think about the mentality you'd have to have, if you get on stage at 5'6", 250, and you're going to tell some dude who's 5'6", 160 that he's enhanced, what is that saying? Like, is that person really going to go, if I didn't take drugs, I'd be 150 pounds on stage? Yeah. Like, drugs are pretty effective, but they don't put 100 pounds of muscle on a 5'6" person. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I've watched John Meadows talk with Jeff Nippard. Yep. I've talked with Mike Israetel. Yep. And these guys who are, I would say, knowledge in this area, not to put anyone on blast, and they're like, Well, yeah, like when I was natural, I mean, I had like a little second coming of like kind of early stage novice or late stage novice, early stage intermediate gains, but it wasn't fucking magic.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's never the guys who have put in the work and then decided to be enhanced who accuse the natural bodybuilders
It's
of
kind
being
of
on
the
here.
never were, like the never was
Exactly.
individuals. Yeah.
Or I've only been training for a couple of years and I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
It's like 19-year-olds or like washed up guys who really just have been very frustrated for a long time.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me because I actually, and I say that we often put limits on ourselves, where I thought, you know, I belonged to a gym and the strongest person there was deadlifting 400 and some pounds. And I thought, damn, like if only I could deadlift 500 pounds. How strong?
With Tren.
Yeah,
you can.
with
Tren, you'll
anything's
one
possible.
day maybe deadlift 400
One day
pounds.
you may. And so I was like, oh, if only I could do 500 pounds. God, I'd be so good. And so that's what I was thinking back in 2012. I finally joined a real gym. My max deadlift was like 425. And that was like a hard 425. And I met Sean Kelly, shout out to Forest Fitness, the best gym I've ever belonged to. And he's like, I did some jumps and stuff. He's like, you got some natural potential to you. It's like, you ever like consider strength sports? I'm like, yeah, I want to increase my deadlift. He's like, well, do this program with me. And I had not followed any program up to that point. I did a linear peak with him. It was his belief in me. He's like, you will deadlift 500 pounds. And I ended up in 8 months going from 425, where in the previous 8 months, my deadlift had gone from 395 to 425, so 30 pounds.
It's like a 10% increase.
Yeah, it went up from 425 to 545, so 120 pounds. So sometimes just understanding that the limit we place on ourselves, it is self-imposed, is really important. And maybe I just want to say for those out there, because we are, you know, fully 90 minutes into this, Eric, I got one final question for you. And for those that are listening and now it's uploaded on the YouTube, I just want you to put hashtag Bukkake if you made it this far, just so I know that you did make it this far. And that's a perfect segue to our question. What's next for you?
Well, first, I just want to give a throwback to way back in the day. Todd, if you're listening, Team BK for life.
Oh, Team
But what's
BK.
next for me is a great question. I'm going in the same direction.
Yeah.
But I'm still going hard and I'm bringing my people with me.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to do some things with 3D Muscle Journey where we're giving back to the community as much as we can.
Yeah.
The 3DMJ Vault has been a big project of ours where we basically have kind of like the online learning university of bodybuilding and powerlifting, where if you want to be a student of your sport, they're very practical based pieces of information. Half of it's free, and even the paid content, we give a good like fifth of it away just so you can get a really good feel for it. I think it's similar to Kaizen, but just very bodybuilding and powerlifting specific.
Right.
So we've been doing that. You know, the podcast has been very successful. We've been trying to push Instagram, but we've got other stuff on the way. Right now, I'm working with Andy and Andrea on the second edition of the Muscle and Strength Pyramids.
Yep.
And we're trying to do bigger and better things with monthly applications in strength sport with myself, Greg Knuckles, and Mike Zerdos, just trying to really give that top level content and the best value to our subscribers over time. So like I'm trying to attack it from all angles that I have, like my experience as a coach and a bodybuilder on a 3DMJ Vault, my experience as a scientist through MOMMA'S, and then kind of the blend of those two into practical application through the Muscle and Strength Pyramids. That's just kind of really following those pathways as far as they can go. And then I'm really excited about our Kaizen program. I don't know when it's going to come out relative to this podcast, but I'm pretty proud of the work we did. I think we encapsulated a lot of complex topics and useful information into some very practical take-homes. And I think it's going to do well, and I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Eric, you're so well spoken. And honestly, I said this before. I think people that don't listen to the videos or your podcast and just maybe see the Instagram, because you do have a solid following on Instagram, don't realize this, where I think you have strong potential on social media, but you're one of those people where you just need a little direction with it, only because you're focusing on putting out good information and not the marketing component to it, which on YouTube and social media is like 80% of it, you know?
It's true.
I think I'll say this just in closing, that I've met many YouTubers and a lot of them rely on their editing. So you meet them in person, I'm like, hey man, what's going on? And I'm a dunderhead where like my YouTube videos are one take. Like I'm too lazy. So they're one take. I don't put the time and effort to edit them properly. And you'll meet them and it's like, there's a disconnect. There's like a personality that wasn't them that they portray online. Mm-hmm. You're just you, and I appreciate meeting you. And I actually would say it's gone even better than expected.
I feel exactly the same way, and I will back you up for all those listening on my life. This man's a one-take Jake, and I often consider myself a one-take Jake, but he's got another level.
Oh, I don't know. I think we're just like peanut butter and jelly. I'm just going to say that way.
I'm hungry now.
Well, I just want to end by saying, Eric, thank you so much for being on this podcast, the Mama's Boys podcast. Check them out. What do you want to shout out for people to follow you?
I want to shout out 3dmusclejourney.com.
Yeah.
My people. I want to give a shout out to Brad, Jeff, and Alberto, the best coaches I know for bodybuilding. And I want to give a shout out to the brain behind it all, Andrew Valdez, who has catapulted us forward, and all the people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Melissa, Steve, Rizzo.
Yeah.
Just want to give a shout out to all them.
Wow, that's real nice. And make sure to follow Eric on Instagram. Let's get his Instagram up at Helms 3DMJ. Thank you everyone for listening, watching this podcast. You could help us out by liking this podcast. You could go on iTunes, leave us a rating and review. We understand a lot of people are broke, so that's a quick, easy, free way to help us out. Make sure also, if you want to become a further Mama's Boys, an official Mama's Boy, you could join our Patreon where we upload exclusive episodes. I don't want to say they're our best episodes, but they're kind of our best episodes. And become an official Mama's Boy. Just search on Patreon, Mama's Boys Podcast. We upload every Tuesdays and Fridays on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube, where all podcasts are. Thank you so much. We're out of here. #Bukkake. You thought I was going to end it with something classy. I'm sorry, Eric.
What makes you say Bukkake isn't classic?
If a couple gentlemen love a woman.
More than a couple.
Yeah.
If at least a double-digit number of Japanese businessmen fall in love with a demure, kneeling woman.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And everyone, it's consensual, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
So long as you make a hole in the circle so she can leave at any time she wants.
Yeah, absolutely.